Good afternoon. It is Wandering In time, the video that I know a lot of you look forward to every week and that I look forward to making every week. So today we are planning on reading at least 4 chapters. So I have decided that 4 is kind of the default for these videos. Number 1 for time constraints, because I record these during my lunch hour, and sometimes if we do more than 4, it'll overflow. The other reason is that Pirate Arbor writes 2 chapters a week. So if I'm able to read 4, then there is a possibility of me catching up at some point, probably years and years and years into the future. However, let's go straight in and we will do at least 4 chapters. I'm going to be talking to you guys with my impressions and thoughts between each chapter, but we're starting today with chapter 16. Okay, so just finished chapter 16. Chapter starts with Erin kind of still reeling from having killed the Hobgoblin chieftain, or the Hobgoblin who was a goblin chieftain. And she's kind of in this state of like PTSD style shock from, having taken a life, which isn't something that really anybody in our world has to do. So she's kind of reeling, she's in shock, she's like really struggling. And then, she starts to feel, it's a couple of days go by of her just kind of in this floating period of shock. She starts to feel really hungry because she hasn't eaten for 2 days. And then she realizes also that the goblins are starving. So eventually she kind of reaches out, she makes some food, and then she tries to get the goblins to come in and eat. This was a really good chapter. Do I need to say that every time? They're all really good. But this was a great chapter because I think it had the kind of combination of the reality of being a normal person in a fantasy world where death is around the corner, and it also showed the compassion of Erin, that even though the goblins would they probably would have killed her and stolen her food or whatever if they weren't afraid of her, she still fed them. And she specifically says to them, like, you don't need to pay for it. She teaches them how to use a fork. So really interesting. I'm looking forward to... I wonder if, like, the goblins become, like, the waiting staff or, like, the support staff for the inn. That would be kind of funny. I really enjoyed this one. Not a huge amount to say because the majority of this chapter is kind of that emotional fallout, and then the second half is kind of like the beginning of Erin's recovery as she starts to kind of treat the goblins like people, and then So I'm going to go straight into the next chapter, chapter 17, and I will speak to you guys in a couple of minutes. Well, for you it will be like instant, but for me it will be like, I don't know, 10-15 minutes. Okay, 17 done. First off, did not know Erin was a redhead. For some reason, I had imagined Erin as kind of like... not like a pale redhead. I was imagining like a tan-skinned, dark-haired woman. I probably will continue to still imagine that until Pirate Arbor makes it explicitly clear how she looks. Anyway, this chapter is another good one because they're all good, but the chess match, let's just get straight to it. So basically, Erin wakes up and she's like, I'm going into town. She's going to get the money back from the shopkeeper, and she's going to get the money back from the shopkeeper, and she's going to do some other stuff. But the thing with the shopkeeper is like the number one. She goes to the shopkeeper and she's like, hey, you conned me. And, the match of wits basically comes down to, she sees a chessboard and she's like, oh, is that chess? And he's like, oh, I bet you that you can't beat a player of my choice at chess. And she's like, okay, yeah, sure, fine. Um, and So the guy gets his nephew, who's a tactician class, so should be incredibly good at chess, and the match is quite fun because even though we don't know that Erin's like a chess grandmaster or something, my assumption is that she's like very good at chess in our world, and chess has only been invented for 2 years in the fantasy world. So the guy's like, "Oh, I've played 100 games and I've won 2/3 of them," and you can see her being like, "Uh huh," like obviously she's played thousands and she's really good at chess. Um, I'm waiting for the explanation on that one. Either it's something that I missed in a past chapter, but I'm pretty sure I've never seen a mention of it. Um, yeah, this is a really fun one. I wonder if she's gonna like start gaining tactician levels by playing chess, because that would obviously play into. Uh, I have heard that the series gets kind of bigger and much more like epic fantasy, and like when I was looking at the listings on Amazon, like one of the future books is called like The General of something, and I was like, I wonder if Erin doesn't stay a simple innkeeper, and she becomes like a huge political figure. But I have absolutely no idea. That would be like my thought would be like, oh, maybe she gains these tactician levels, and the tactician levels are what allows her to become part of a more big and epic story. But we will see as we read. Don't spoil it for me if that is or is not what happens. You could comment something like, "Oh, what an interesting theory," uh, but I will speak to you after I've read chapter 18. Okie dokie. So, just read chapter 18, and that kind of feels like. So, I'll talk about what happened in the chapter in a second, but I just wanted to give my first impression, which is that this feels kind of like a good, like, closing point, and that it's like the end of the prologue, if that makes sense. So, like many fantasy series, will have like in the first book they'll have like a prologue, or maybe they'll have parts. Brandon Sanderson does this with his stuff. Is it'll have like they'll each book will have like 3 or 4 parts, and each part will be like kind of a series of events, and there might be like a bit of time between the parts, things like that. And chapter 18 of The Wandering Inn definitely feels like a kind of. It feels like the sort of place where if you were reading it, kind of like binge reading it, rather than the way that I'm doing it, where I'm setting out to read a set amount of chapters per week, it would feel a bit like that's a good place to like put it down for the day, if that makes sense. So let's talk about what happens. So the basics of that chapter are that Erin makes friends with the shopkeeper, and I can't remember her name now. Let me get the chapter up. So she beats the chess player Olesum. Olesum. So she beats him, and then we learn that she's incredible at chess. Let me just have a look. What's the Knoll's name? What is her name? She says what her name is very early on, and I'm scrolling through and I can't find it. Kershia, the shopkeeper. So she beats the guy at chess. We learn that she's been playing chess her whole life, and that actually in the real world, our world, I guess it's our world, not the real world, because the fantasy world is very real, as we found out. In our world, she's a very good chess player. She's even beaten a grandmaster before. She actually also almost like lets slip a load of facts about being from another world, but Kulb helps her out and is like, "Oh yeah, I've heard of that game," because she's talking about shogi. And she starts talking about, she mentions YouTube, she starts talking about Japan, and then it's like, obviously she's excited because she's been playing chess and she loves chess. Um, but I really like if chess is like a major element of the Wandering Inn, and it feels like it might be from the way that she talks about it and that she buys a chessboard. So I'd love for that to continue because I am terrible at chess, but I love the concept of it and like watching people play. Like if I, when friends play, I'll like watch and think about what I would do. And I do like to play chess games on my phone. And actually, I have a chessboard ready to play with my son when he gets a bit older, and I can teach him how to play. Obviously, that'll be years from now because he's only 4, but something that I would really like to do. Anyway, and yeah, I'd also like to be good at chess myself. So I would like to take some like learn some more about the whole game and stuff. And it'd be fun if that was actually in the Wandering Inn. Anyway, so she beats him at chess. She befriends Kershia, who tells her about like her tribe of gnolls, the Silver Fangs. She also tells her about the Runners Guild. She talks about the Runners Guild, and the Runners Guild was in the interlude because there was a girl from our world who ran through the portal into the fantasy world, and she ran into like the Runners Guild. So that could be really interesting. Maybe we'll see her character pop up as we see more runners and more Runners Guild related stuff. On top of all that, so Erin realizes that she buys all this stuff. She arranges to have it delivered by a runner, but then she also buys the wood and paint to put a sign up on the inn. Well, 2 signs, and this is where we first see the name The Wandering Inn. So that's what she decides to call the inn. She's kind of committing to it, making it her home, making it her livelihood in this fantasy world. And she also puts another sign up that says "No killing goblins." And I actually I had seen that sign referenced. I think it's in the blurb for book 1 on Amazon, for the ebook version. So maybe that's where I heard it from. So yeah, all in all, as always with The Wandering Inn, another great chapter. I really enjoyed the chess stuff. I really enjoyed the conversation with Kershia, and I liked how Pirate Arbor did the build up for the sign reveal, and especially for the little sign reveal, and how the person whose perspective we get on it is the little goblin girl. She sees the "No killing goblins" sign and is like, "Oh, this is what's going on." So, one more chapter today. I was genuinely thinking to myself like, oh, maybe I could push it and get to chapter 20, but unfortunately I'm running out of time. So we'll read chapter 19 now, and then I will talk to you guys in a minute. Right, chapter 19 done. So this one is it's not an interlude, but it is another chapter that is I say another chapter. This is a chapter. It's got an R in the title, and I don't know whether the R is for runner or Ryoka, because the point of view character in this is Ryoka, who's from our world again, and she was the runner that was talked about in the previous interlude, and that I mentioned in the previous chat. So Ryoka basically runs through the grass to a city. It's attacked by some goblins, but very handily outruns them because she's a runner. And I'm going to assume that when she got to the fantasy world, she got some sort of running or magic running abilities, because she's talking about running without running for many miles without sweating, and sprinting. There's basically no way you can sprint without sweating. Uh, so a little bit of background. I'm actually a hobbyist runner myself. I'm not very good or anything, but I've run most of the distances that you can run for races. So everything from 5k up to a 50k ultra marathon, which is about 8k longer than a regular marathon. There's much longer distances you can do, but only have so much free time. So I've run 2 ultras. I've run multiple marathons. I've run a ton of half marathons, races that is. I know running very well. So this is another one where like my interests are kind of crossing over the Wandering Inn again. Like last chapter, I was talking, or maybe previously in this video, I was talking about how I've always been interested in chess and I'm terrible at it, but would like to get better at it. And then now we have a character who's a runner, and I also would kind of say I'm a runner. I haven't run much in the last few months because I've been training on other stuff, but I'm hoping to do some more running next year. I actually used to listen to audiobooks while I ran instead of like music or anything like that. So that's kind of a crossover between like my bookish booktube life and my former kind of exercise life. So I really like the character of Ryoka so far. I liked getting this look at this other city. It's called Chelum, I think, something like that. I should probably stop just randomly looking stuff up in the chapters while we're doing the video. So she goes to this new city or town, and then she goes to see Magnolia Reinhardt, who is a very rich noble. Magnolia seems to have a bit of kind of a hidden motive to hiring Ryoka, because she got her to bring some wine, and then she tried to get her to have a glass of wine with her. So there's definitely something going on there. And it looks like also the wine is made of the fruits from the trees that grow by the Wandering Inn. So that kind of shows me there's probably a crossover happening between Ryoka and Erin at some point soon, because otherwise, that's kind of going to be where the getting the fruits for the tree for the wine is going to come in. So yeah, very interesting there. I really like the character Ryoka. The next chapter is also from her point of view, it looks like, because I accidentally just kind of by default skipped on to the next chapter as I finished this one, and then was like, oh, it's an R chapter as well. I kind of wish that I could read some more of the R chapters and kind of finish this storyline off, but I'm kind of running out of time, so we'll have to do that next week. Let's talk about not just this chapter I've just read, but all the chapters for the whole week. So started on chapters 15, I think, or 16, and yeah, it must have been 16. So we went 16, 17, 18, 19. So far, a great set of chapters. As always, I might say last week's chapters were better because they kind of had more big story moments, and we had the Kulb POV chapter to end the week, and he's kind of my favourite character that isn't Erin at the moment. I'm really curious as to what's going on with the Antimonian. So that's that chapter was a real kind of crown on last week, whereas this week I'm kind of ending in the middle of something because there's more Ryoka chapters to come. So for the time being, I think, every week I've said, oh, this week's chapters are better than the last, and I don't think this week's chapters were better than last week's. However, they are still good. We've got a fantastic new character in Ryoka that I'm really interested in. We got to see Erin play chess, which is fun, and she's also kind of accepted her place in the fantasy world and opened the inn and named it, and she's trying to befriend the goblins. So lots of really good story progression. Again, I enjoyed the runners section really a lot. and I'm looking forward to more of it. I love that in the comments for previous videos, people have said, "Oh, you can trust Pirate Albert on character, on plot, on writing, but things that you can't trust them on are numbers, maps, distances." I think that's really funny. I'll definitely. I mean, I'm still going to call it out every time that it happens in the books, but now more as like a this is funny, not as like a I wonder what's going on here sort of thing. Because I know she talks about Ryoka talks about here. Um, she talks about how she when she's running away from the goblins, there's a bit where she goes like, "Oh, she ran a bit further, and after what felt like 3 miles, and like the average person runs like a 10-minute mile, so that would have been quite a long time." Which is another reason why also I thought that Ryoka kind of has like supernaturally fast running. The other thing that I would say is barefoot running is incredibly difficult. So that again, to me, signals that she has some sort of magical ability or levels in running that allow her to run barefoot without pain. But basically, think about when you're running, every single time you touch the floor with your feet, you are kind of throwing all of your weight of your entire body through one knee, one hip, one calf, and like one impact point on your feet. So that's why running barefoot is incredibly hard, because the human body isn't really adapted or isn't designed to move in that way, and to handle that much weight. So especially people who have grown up in a shod society. So you will find people in societies where they don't really wear shoes, or they wear very minimal shoes, and those societies, people can walk and whatever, but you'll often find that in a traditional shod society, for example, if you are used to wearing shoes that have like cushion on the bottom, like 99% of modern shoes do, you'll find, like, say for example, even just going for a long walk, you'll find your feet will hurt. So running is an entirely different thing. So that's a really weird divergence into like one of my special interests, because I wear barefoot shoes, so I wear very minimalist shoes, so I know how difficult these processes are. Again, don't expect Pirate Albert to know that, because they're probably not a distance runner or a barefoot shoe, minimalist shoe fan. But it's just fun to bring my perspective, I think, to this story. If that's not something people are interested in, apologies. But I think now at the end there is a great time to leave the video for this week. So next week I will be trying to read again as many chapters as possible. But we'll still be going on Thursdays. Nothing's going to change there. And I guess that's probably, there's not really much else to say. So thanks very much for watching. Please do subscribe to the channel, and I understand if you don't want to click the notification bell, because I do 4 other videos that aren't Wandering In related. So if you're just a Wandering In fan, then I understand if you don't want to click that bell. However, if you do click it, you will be notified every single time that one of these videos goes up. And I'm seeing a lot of repeat names in the comments, and a lot of people saying they're enjoying the series. So I would love for you guys to come back every single week, and for us to have this continued back and forth conversation about the Wandering In, especially as it starts to heat up and get juicier, which I expect it will, now that we've passed what feels like that prologue for the series. Anyway, please drop a comment down below on anything on the chapters this week. Obviously no future spoilers. And also, that's everything. Like the video if you liked it, and I will speak to you next Thursday.